What's the result of all this? Fox knows they're dead to rights. They settle the case for a grand total of like $780 million with Dominion. Bro, if you're writing a damn near $1 billion paycheck, you know you did something wrong, okay? Nobody writes a nearly $1 billion check because they were right.
Earlier we had a conversation. You had introduced to me the idea that despite a lot of people having the idea that the media is largely left-wing and paints Trump not favorably, you pushed back on that and you told me, well, you think that the media actually helps Trump or supports Trump or is not what most people would think. And I'm like, wow, that's a hot take. What do you mean by that? And that's where you said this would be the episode. So I'm going to kind of let you lead this, and I'm just going to pick your brain on where this goes.
So I'm gonna take a page out of my philosophy playbook, and I'm gonna lay out like 3 different premises to this conclusion. Okay.
Perfect.
First one that a lot of people I feel like don't understand is that in our country we have a center-left party, the Democrats, that are much closer to the center than most left-wing parties abroad. And then we have a far-right party, the Republican Party. And so our notion of left and right is askew compared to most of the West. So premise 1 is that if you're going to be objective in the media, which is to say, I think most people would agree that objective does not mean neutral. If you have a Nazi on, and then there's just like a regular person, acting like those two sides have an equal say at the conversation is ridiculous, right? Everybody can agree on that. You wouldn't give them an equal say. It's not like, oh, let's hear out these equally placed ideas and pit them against each other. We've dispelled Nazism. We're good, right? Uh-huh. So objective means you have to tell the truth and call BS where BS can be found. And so basically what that means is if you have a media that's acting like a far-right party is an equal and opposite force to a center-left party, there's a rub there. That's my first premise. Second premise is that in general, all media, but especially corporate media, their primary bias is not towards a particular party or ideology. They don't have an ideology. Their only ideology is for profit. It's the only thing it can be. They're giant media corporations. They're run by some of the biggest companies on earth. I think AT&T owns like a third of all the media companies in the United States. So their bias is towards profit. And what drives profit in a 24-hour news cycle is sensationalism. Okay. So premise 2 is there anything more sensational than Donald J. Trump?
What a blessing to the American media.
Exactly. And then premise 3 is that because we don't directly pay for our subscriptions to these media companies, they're funded by a nefarious third party that doesn't have your best interests in mind. And that means because it's primarily done through advertising dollars, exactly what those people want can be paid for on the American media channels. By and large, what do large corporations with a lot of money to throw at advertising at media companies tend to favor? Low regulation, lower taxes for themselves, basically getting the government out of their way so that they can continue to grow their business and their profits. And then we've seen over and over again that they're willing to throw as much money at that problem as it takes to solve it, right? Mm-hmm. They do this through massive super PAC donations, but they also do it through buying a shit ton of ads. Like the numbers are staggering. And you don't notice it, but if you sit down and you watch an American media channel, every single commercial on whether it's Fox or CNN is going to be from a pharmaceutical company or a healthcare company or a defense contractor or someone who is already lobbying big dollars on K Street across from Washington, D.C. And it's like convenient that why are these the TV ads that they add on? Is me seeing an ad for Lexapro gonna be why I get it prescribed? Is that like directly marketed? Can I go to my doctor and be like, yeah, I saw this commercial. Can you get that for me?
Actually, you can here in America, which is funny, but
but the doctor's also gonna say, I need to at least prove that you need this medication, right? And if if they determine you can't, then you don't get it. Like, those ads are not about driving customers for drugs. That's not how it works. They already do that through the drug reps at the doctor's office, and they offer kickbacks to the doctors at the doctor's office. They don't need the TV ads. The TV ads are about buying a narrative, which we'll get into. So all of that leads to the conclusion that the media can't possibly be favorable to the Democrats and favorable to the left wing, because if they were and they actually did their jobs, left wing policies and Democrat politics are actually much more popular in the United States. They would demonstrate this through objective analysis. They wouldn't act like there are two equal sides, because again, we have a far right party that has a bunch of policies that aren't popular at all. And they would present that in a way to the American people that it would remove all doubt. And then they would lose their rat race. They would lose their horse race. And that is the most sensational thing that they need to keep to sustain. They make more money during election cycles than they ever do at any other time during their existence as media corporations.
Very interesting.
Where do you want to start with picking that one apart?
That was your third, or was that your second?
That's my third premise.
Okay.
So the third premise is that they're beholden to their advertisers, who primarily favor Republicans.
Now, what you just said makes total sense, that media companies are by and large bought by and paid for by large companies which want less restrictions, and companies which want much less restrictions are usually not have the best interests of the people they're serving to. They just have the best interests of the product they're selling, or the service or whatever. That makes sense. What now, to the average person who supports Trump, which I used to be, what I see is constant like media berating Trump, always trying to make him look the fool, and that's how I always viewed the media in terms every time I saw Trump on some sort of article, TV station, or whatever. How would you address that? If that's a specific enough question to ask, I guess. It's pretty vague, but bear with me.
No. I think if I can condense it, I mean, essentially what you're saying is, how can they support Trump if they just bash him all day? That just on its face, that doesn't make sense.
Yes.
Okay. So my first question would be to you. When do you think it was well known from Trump getting into politics? When do you think it became well known in media in terms of the people who produce and make this content, these shows, that bashing him was actually making him more popular, and that the triggering of the libs was actually fueling the new Republican movement called MAGA?
Some 4D chess they were playing here, dude.
It's not necessarily like a 4D chess situation, because I don't think they necessarily intended on fueling it. It's more like they just didn't care. Because look, this was known by the end of the Republican nomination process. And you can see when their tune changed, right? In general, the media at first was treating Trump, before they thought like he could actually win the Republican nomination all the way back in 2015, 2016, like that run up to the 2016 election. Their initial treatment of him was more like fun. Look at this crazy guy that isn't really going to win, but he's making the election interesting. He's making it fun. Then all of a sudden it became serious that he could win. And they started ramping up Trump could be dangerous. But then they also were overconfident and thought that he would just obviously lose to Hillary Clinton. When we actually get post-election, I would argue that by that point, they know that their endless everyday coverage is part of the reason why he won. They made him more popular by hating him so much. And they knew it.
I mean, yeah, when they bashed him, it definitely didn't turn any opinions. You know, it just, anybody who had slightly inclination towards Trump saw that he was like being treated unfairly, you could say, in terms of the media. And they're like, wow, that's unfair. They must really not want him for some reason. And that's not fair to him, so I'm going to support him, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And anybody who didn't like him for any reason, it just polarized. It just pushed everybody who was here out here.
Yeah. And I mean, in some sense, the interesting thing is, I think what a lot of people have the illusion of is the other side of that coin is, let's talk about Fox News and them. Because, I mean, I think the illusion is that they love Trump. And certainly, if you're an average Fox News watcher today and you watch a typical segment on Fox News, I mean, that is their brand now. But I encourage you to, if you can find it on YouTube or anywhere, go back and try to find Fox News running up to the 2016 nomination, because they did not love Trump.
Really?
And yes. And there was regular battles between Trump. It wasn't until he became the nominee that their tune started to change on Fox News. And so then, because ultimately the thing that the media has to do is present that there are like two equal sides, even if they think Trump is not a great candidate at Fox News, they have to continue to build him up because they present themselves as the counterweight to the liberal left and the liberal media like MSNBC and CNN, etc. So now they have to change tune. They have no choice. That's their business model, regardless of what they actually think internally. What a lot of people don't know is, flash forward to the 2020 election, we have the chaos that is Donald Trump calling into question the legitimacy of the election. Now, regardless of what you think about that today, whether there was some issues or whether there's not, this is the most interesting fact, is that there was a defamation case by Dominion Voting Machines. The company Dominion that makes the voting machines sued Fox News for defamation because they went on TV over and over again. A number of their hosts, primarily Tucker Carlson, kept saying a bunch of things implying that Dominion had fraud with their voting machines. When that became obvious that it was not true to everyone, that's now a defamation case. If you can prove that Fox News knew they were lying when they said it. That's what has to be proven for defamation. So a lot of people don't know that. You have to be able to prove that this business entity knew they were lying in the media about the fact.
Did they find proof?
Did they prove it? Well, here's what they did find. Through legal leaks, through discovery process of the case before it ever went to trial, because it didn't go to trial, it got settled, but I'll get to that in a minute. What they were able to do is show emails from as high profile people, including Tucker Carlson, saying things like they hated Trump, saying things like they knew that the Dominion story and the election denial was total BS and that it was ridiculous. They couldn't wait for Trump to go away so they could stop covering him. And so their internal communication is 180 degrees the opposite of what you see every day when you turn on the channel. And this all got revealed in that defamation case. In the I can't remember what it's called, but they do like the discovery part of a civil trial where they release like information. No, that's for, I think depositions are for criminal trials. This was like when they do like in a civil case where they have to like gather all their files, all their evidence that's going to be talked about like during the case. So all this stuff gets revealed. Fox News is scrambling to try and hide as much of it as they absolutely can. Tucker Carlson comes out looking like the worst villain of all this because he clearly knows that he's lying every single day on a show. His emails, his personal emails are demonstrating 180 degrees the opposite of what he says on air. And he's even worse today because like now he still is singing Trump's tune even more than when he was still on Fox. He's gone even further in that direction, despite we know him lying and the internal saying how much he hated him.
Wow.
So what's the result of all this? Fox knows they're dead to rights. They settle the case for a grand total of like $780 million with Dominion. So I'm going to suggest to you that if you think, well, they settled, so that doesn't really mean they were guilty. Bro, if you're writing a damn near $1 billion paycheck, you fucking know you did something wrong, okay? Nobody writes a nearly $1 billion check because they were right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not. I promise you, they're not that much of the bigger person.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
So they would have fought it. And I think that that's one of those things that, again, that's one of those things, if you did not have independent media as part of your viewing, if you had mostly right-wing biased media, they did not cover that story.
I've never heard of that.
They did not want to cover it. And yet it was major news. It was in every mainstream media outlet. You can go read the case. You can Google it for yourself. You can look up YouTube videos of people explaining what happened with the Dominion lawsuit and hear the evidence for yourself. Don't take my word for it. It's plainly obvious if you just go read it.